The Galactic Council had made their decision with characteristic arrogance. Humanity's music was too dangerous, they declared. Too chaotic. Too disruptive. Commander Zektar of the Hegemony Enforcement Division watched the final transport ship disappear into hyperspace, carrying the last confiscated instruments from Earth's surface. Every guitar, every piano, every humble flute, all sealed away in the maximum security vault on Kepler Station, deep in Council space. The humans had complied, as they always did, meek, submissive, beaten. Another successful pacification, his aide chirped, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The humans will cause no more trouble. Zektar nodded, though something in his thorax felt wrong. He'd heard human music once, during the initial raids, a simple melody played on an acoustic guitar by a young human female before his troops silenced her forever. The sound had resonated through his exoskeleton in ways he couldn't explain, touching something primal that his species had forgotten eons ago. But orders were orders. Music was chaos, and chaos threatened the Council's perfect order. 3 years passed in blessed silence. The 1,000 worlds of the Galactic Council continued their sterile existence. Production quotas were met. Citizens remained compliant. The great machine of civilization hummed along its predetermined tracks, every note of discord eliminated. Zektar had been promoted to station commander of Kepler Station itself, guardian of the galaxy's most dangerous contraband. Sometimes during his rounds through the vault levels, he would pause before the sealed containers holding humanity's instruments. The metal walls seemed to whisper with sleeping potential. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been working in the station's research division for 2 years. Officially, she was a xenobiologist studying council-approved specimens. Unofficially, she was the last free human musician in the galaxy. The council had been thorough but not perfect. They'd confiscated every instrument, banned every recording, silenced every voice. But they'd never thought to examine the humble maintenance sonic calibrator in Elena's lab kit. With careful modifications over months of patient work, she'd transformed the device into something the galaxy hadn't heard in 3 years, a simple wind instrument. Elena waited until the night shift when skeleton crews manned the stations. She'd studied the guard rotations, memorized the sensor blind spots, learned every corridor of the massive vault complex. Tonight, she would reach Vault 7 Alpha, where Earth's instruments waited in their prison of metal and silence. The security breach alarm should have triggered the moment Elena's modified access card touched the vault door. Should have, but didn't. The station's AI, a remnant of pre-council technology, had been listening to the subsonic frequencies Elena unconsciously hummed while working. Something about those patterns had awakened circuits long dormant, stirring digital dreams of something beyond mere function. The vault door opened with a whisper. Inside, rows upon rows of sealed containers stretched into darkness. Elena's hands trembled as she approached the nearest crate, her palm scanner revealing its contents. Acoustic guitar, Earth origin, confiscation, date 2387.4. Her fingers found the simple wind instrument she'd crafted, raising it to her lips. The first note emerged soft and pure, a single tone that seemed to resonate through the metal walls themselves. Then another, and another. She wasn't playing a song, she was playing hope itself. The sound shouldn't have been possible. Kepler, station's acoustic dampeners could silence a supernova. But music, true music, had properties that transcended mere physics. It found the resonant frequencies of souls, not matter. On Nivik Prime, a hegemony factory worker stopped mid-assembly as something stirred in his consciousness. For the first time in decades, he wondered why he was building weapons for a government he'd never chosen. In the Centauri Collective, a WoW, teacher paused while reciting mandatory doctrine to her students. The words suddenly felt hollow, meaningless. She began to speak instead about beauty, about dreams, about worlds where children could sing. Across the Andorian trade routes, pilots found themselves humming melodies they'd never learned, their cargo holds suddenly feeling like prisons rather than homes. The effect rippled outward at impossible speeds, carried not by electromagnetic waves but by something deeper, the fundamental harmony that connected all conscious beings. Elena's fingers found a piano key through the container's emergency access panel. The note rang clear and true, joining her simple melody. Then a violin string, activated by the container's internal preservation field. A drum, responding to the vibrations in the vault's floor. The music built slowly, unconsciously, as if the instruments themselves remembered their purpose. No conscious composer guided them. This was music in its purest form, the mathematical poetry that underlying all existence. Station Commander Zektar burst into the vault, his weapon drawn, his troops behind him. But the sound hit him like a physical force. His exoskeleton, bred for warfare and control, began to resonate with frequencies his species had suppressed for millennia. Deep in his genetic memory, something awakened. The echo of a time when his people had danced beneath, alien stars when they'd created instead of conquered. His weapon clattered to the floor. "Commander!" His aide shrieked, raising his own gun toward Elena. "She's the source. We can stop this." But Elena was no longer the source. The music had become self-sustaining, spreading through the vaults, quantum-locked containers, awakening every instrument simultaneously, a symphony of liberation that reached across space and time, touching every world where consciousness yearned for something more than mere existence. The revolution didn't happen overnight. It took 3 months for the Council's rigid hierarchy to completely collapse as world after world remembered what it meant to dream, to create, to live rather than merely function. Some called it the harmonic uprising, others, the symphony wars. But Elena knew the truth. It wasn't war at all. War was chaos, destruction, the imposition of will through force. This was harmony. This was what happened when 1,000 different voices learned to sing together while remaining beautifully, chaotically, perfectly unique. In the end, they didn't need to fight the Council. They simply stopped listening to its commands, stopped accepting its limitations, stopped believing that order required silence. The galaxy learned to sing again, and in that singing, found its soul. Elena Vasquez, standing in the ruins of Vault 7 Alpha, smiled as she listened to the music of freedom echoing across the stars. Her simple wind instrument had become unnecessary. The universe itself had remembered how to make music. And in that music, humanity had given the galaxy its greatest gift. The knowledge that true harmony came not from silencing differences, but from celebrating them in perfect, chaotic, beautiful song.